Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of a Forgotten Generation podcast with your host, Troy. With me in today's episode is a member of Barnardo's and a youth activist. Hamaam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good afternoon to your fellow listeners and watchers of the podcast. I'm Hamaam, and as Troy brilliantly introduced me, I'm a member of the Barnardo's Youth Advisor Group alongside a whole host of other things, including the Co-operatives Youth Advisor Group and working for a lovely charity that I've just gotten back from Nepal with called Mate UK. And of course, to finish off, I am a second year law student and hopefully a third year law student starting this September. But thank you so much for having me on, Troy.
Anytime, and it's so good to have you. And so, what is your social action journey?
Ooh, very good question. My social action journey started back in 2022. So, I think so, just right in the middle of the COVID pandemic. And it was a very tricky and kind of bumpy journey towards the beginning because, to be honest, I didn't know much about youth social action or youth social justice. So I remember reaching out because I saw a little ad on the Birmingham City Council website saying, we want more young people to become member of youth parliaments for our wonderful city. And I said, this is an incredible opportunity to represent young people in Birmingham, especially seeing as Birmingham has the youngest age group within Europe. So we're the youngest city in Europe. So that's a great thing to hear. So I remember successfully becoming a member of the youth parliament for Birmingham. That's where my journey began. And throughout that, I've had loads of different roles, loads of different experiences, something that I'll hold on for life. I've met some incredible people, made some incredible friends. One of my best friends called Ivan, he's also a youth advocate too. And I also work with him alongside the Co-operatives Youth Advisor Group. And then it's led me here to even more incredible opportunities. As you know, I just come back from Nepal after a whole month teaching there across 5 different provinces. So that was an incredible opportunity. And it's, yeah, so that's really my youth social action journey just wrapped up.
Wow, what a journey, to be honest with you. You've come a long way. You've done so many things.
Indeed, yeah.
I think it's really amazing. Like, you've done good things in your social action journey. And so, what
Thank you.
has made you uninspired to have a voice and be who you are today?
Oh, that's a very good question. What has inspired me to be the person I am today? Again, I'd say be the people who I've met throughout that journey. I remember being a very naive 15-year-old that didn't know much about politics and how the world worked. And I had a very simplistic view of life. But then I remember being given so many reality checks by one very important person in my life, Juliet Faulkner. So she was the youth worker, so senior youth worker for the Birmingham City Council, and especially for the board that I sat on and represented as an MYP, member of Youth Parliament. I remember the amount of conversations that we'd have and that Juliet would support me along the way. And I remember because especially as a young person coming from an immigrant background, to it's not something that my parents would have experienced, so I didn't know much about this whole kind of youth social action. But I remember Juliet supporting me, holding my hand throughout the way. I remember, if I go back to this one particular thing, I remember I was invited to Belgium at the heart of the European Parliament in Brussels. And I was so nervous representing not only my city, but the country as a whole and not knowing anybody. But I remember the words of advice that Juliet Faulkner would give to me. And it's those words of advice that I've held on until now and that have shaped my life, but also so many other people that I don't have enough time to name. But yeah, I think so. That's what's made me who I am today.
Wow, so empowering. Like, I'm so glad that she was the one that empowered you and really inspired you in this journey. And because and a whole lot of other people who really inspired you as well. I think that's so incredible.
Thank you so much. Honestly, I wish I had the time to name everybody, but that's just one person that stands out. I have incredible friends and incredible family that support me, love me, and yeah, I'm glad.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah,
glad to hear that. Oh, that's so beautiful,
thank you,
that.
Troy. Thank you.
And so has there been barriers in your journey to create change and be a young person?
I feel like I've been very lucky and blessed along the way, but I've faced many barriers and challenges, especially, I'm sure, Troy, as you know, with your extensive journey through youth social action too. The want and need for change isn't as desired as much as young people desire it, especially by members of parliament or those who have the power to create change. And that can be a very tricky thing, especially being a young person with no formal kind of experience, especially in this world. So one of the biggest barriers I'd face, especially with meetings with members of Birmingham City Council or members of Parliament, I'm not going to name anybody, but it was really difficult trying to get our opinions across to them and talk about some of the issues that facing people because number one, there isn't the extensive support or network in place to reach out to every single young person, especially in the city of Birmingham or any city, in fact, in the UK. So that's a difficulty. But even when we do attend some of these meetings, it feels very tokenistic at times. I remember at the beginning of my journey, it all felt very tokenistic that certain people who create change or say that they create change would meet with us for a photo op and say, oh, I met this young person, heard their views, but it didn't really envision the kind of motto that I always go by, where young people are at the heart and start of everything. It just felt like a little small consultation just to hear our views, and that's it. And no real change was created. So I think that's the issue that every single youth advocate faces is, first of all, trying to reach out to young people to hear their views, but also trying to create some change because it's really, really difficult.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more on that one because it is difficult. I think for us youth activists, we're trying to make change. We're trying to get our professionals, government ministers, or someone in power to listen to us,
Uh-huh.
but they're not taking us seriously. And they're thinking that we're a joke, that our voice doesn't matter. The issues that we're
Yeah.
passionate about, maybe like climate change, education, mental health, and special
Mhm.
educational needs and disabilities. Like these are real issues that us young people, we are going through it.
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, it's not like every single change maker is exactly like this. I've met some incredible councillors, MPs, and any other change makers, and they've been absolutely incredible and tried their best to support us. But I feel like it is well, it's not just specifically UK wide issue. I think it's just an issue across the world, but the UK especially, because I remember if I go back to my experience that I had in the European Parliament in Brussels, speaking. I also have some friends from all across Europe, and I remember speaking to a group of my friends from Saxony in Germany. And I remember because they're part of the Jungen Parliament Leipzig, so the Youth Parliament Leipzig. And I remember also talking to both groups of young people from Germany, and they'd shared some of the ways that they've advocated for young people and also created change and had the support of their members of parliament. They wanted to add climate education and political education to the curriculum in Saxony, and they were successful. They had the willingness or the will from that member of parliament who supported him all the way, and it became a city-wide or municipality-wide curriculum change where they envisioned something and they created that change. So that's incredible. But I don't feel like that's something that could happen in the UK, but especially with issues with the Department of Education, who set the curriculum, and it's not different city councils or school organisations that set their curriculum. So you see, it's those unique issues that we face in the UK that really need to change. And yeah.
Absolutely. I think all of those issues are so important. I think it needs
Mm.
to be and addressed in the UK. And that brings me very well to like answer the next question here is what do you think government and professionals working with young people need to do better in supporting us and our voice? Also, what are the three issues you think young people are facing?
Start off with the second part, the latter part of the question. I don't think so. I can put it in three, but I'll try. Mental health, 100%. Again, I feel like I'm just an echo chamber at this point because so many people raise this issue. I think so. Mental health amongst young people, especially Generation Z, has become an even more bigger issue than it has 2 years back, especially with COVID, with the cost of living affecting so many young people. It's really affecting their mental health, especially with education too. Our education system is not brilliant. So I'd say mental health is one of the biggest issues, and there are no support mechanisms put into place. Think of it this way. If a young person feels that they have ADHD, it will take 2 years for them to receive an appointment. So, not a diagnosis, an appointment. it will take them 2 years. And I just think with the whole issues with CAMS, the whole issue with young people also facing what's called autism, etc., with all these kind of things, it takes so long for you to get an appointment just to get diagnosed. And that's what's setting us back. So 100% mental health is one of the biggest issues that face our generation, especially. Second thing I would say would be jobs or like employment in general. I remember me and my friends have also applied to like certain companies like Sainsbury's, etc., Morrison's, or whatever it may be, KFC, anything of the sort. And then we'd get a email that says, unfortunately, we were not able to accept your application that you've made to us, but we hope and wish you the best. And most likely the reason they give everybody is that you don't have the experience. How are young people supposed to gain experience if you don't give them the chance to get that experience? So there's an issue with young people trying to get employment, but they can't. But also another issue with payments to also salary is incredibly low. Correct me if I'm wrong, Troy, but I feel like it's for under 18s, it's £6 or £7, I think it is now risen to.
Yes, I think so. I believe so.
Yeah, between the £6 or £7 range, that is not something a young person can live on, especially a young person coming from a working class background who he or she has to support their family members. So there, yeah, that's the second issue: jobs, employment, salaries. And then the third one, very good question. The education. I feel like our education system is incredibly flawed. One of the best education systems in the world, but I do feel like it's incredibly archaic in the sense of our education system hasn't changed in over a century in terms of the way that teaching is. Back 100 years ago, you'd use a blackboard and chalk. And now we use whiteboards and automatic pens of some sort. Again, the teacher's at the front of the class and the students are sitting on their own individual desks or desks of two people. So it's similar in the way that we teach, and there has been no change, especially in more practicals, even in like German history. The only time I actually done practicals was either in sports, so PE, or in science. But if you look at other education systems across the world, they relish the chance of taking young people outside and exploring nature and exploring what's outside in the real world. Like even just 2 days ago, I was in the Netherlands. I went canoeing with my family members, and we saw a whole field full of young people who are out on a trip because the school decided that it was team building, bonding, exercise, supporting their mental health. And that's something incredible that we don't do in the UK. So those are the top three biggest issues, I'd say. And in my opinion, it's totally dependent on who you're asking and who's answering. And listen to young people. And once you listen to us, then it's easier to understand some of the issues that we face. And when I say just listen to us, I don't mean just have a sit down, hear what we have to say, and that's it. Actually, create some source of impact from the words that we pass on to you. If we're saying, I don't know, 60%, 70% of young people are suffering with mental health, are unable to get appointments with their local GP or local CAMS unit, then something needs to change. So create that change. So listen to us and create that change. There's are two things I'd actually say, and it's very short and sweet and very simple.
Absolutely. And it is very simple. And I really, really hope like a government, like our professionals are listening to this and be like, this is what we need to do better for young people. Because well said. Issues that you said about mental health, education, and jobs, those are very important issues. Like, those are issues that I feel like is at the moment what young people are going through.
Totally right. Yeah, 100%.
And so, what is your advice to a young person wanting to make a difference but don't know how to?
My advice. Hey, this is actually a pretty interesting one. Most people, especially most young people, believe that they have to set up their own groups or set up their own networks in order to create that change. But there are already existing networks within your city, maybe not as well known, unfortunately, but there are very well known networks, youth groups, youth organizations that are there to support you, that always have applications open. There are some incredible organizations like Barnardo's. There's also Mind. There's also Bite Back 2030, and there's so much more. Birmingham Youth City Board in Birmingham, of course. So every single city or local authority has some type of youth organisation or youth board that represents young people in their city. So the number one thing I'd say is research. Once you do that research, apply to join these groups. But before you do, think of why you want to join. Do you want to join because you want to boost your CV, which again, there's nothing wrong with that? Or do you want to join because you actually want to create change and you're really passionate? So join that group. And once you join that group, make sure that you are actually a proactive member, that you're supporting those that you work with within the board, but also actively trying to listen to young people. Because again, young people have had a history of not being listened to, especially by adults. And we don't want to create that kind of negative culture, especially within our own generation. So listen to those young people that you are supposed to represent and support them and hear them, because that's exactly what they need. That's exactly what everybody else needs. So that's my advice, but also most importantly, to have fun. I have had so much fun in my journey. Don't take it too seriously in the sense of don't be too stressed. Remember that you have so many other priorities too. You are your own person. I remember, especially joining my youth organisation, I'd apply for everything, join everything, do everything, and I really enjoyed it. And I wouldn't change anything, but I remember being very burnt out at times. So it's important to take a step back at times, enjoy yourself, but also remember why you're doing it, to help young people and also to have fun. But yeah, there's my advice.
I love that advice, and I think it's something I very much resonate with you on that one because I'm like telling myself I need to take a break as well. I need to have that
It's
time.
very important. It's very important. I think it's because we forget in life that humans aren't created to work 24/7, are they?
Yeah,
No, exactly. So it's important to have that downtime, to do something silly, to do something serious, whatever it is, whatever you're into, just have fun, go out, do something fun, do something enjoyable.
definitely. Because I really hope listeners take away on and advice. So, what would be a Forgotten Generation podcast quote to sum up your journey?
Oh, very good question. It's a one word quote. And by that I mean, and it's a personal one to me in the sense of I would like to think that I've had some sort of impact, some sort of positive impact on young people as a whole, for those who I have tried my best to represent. But also, in another way, this journey has also had a massive impact on me as a person, my development, and also my future career prospects in the sense of I'm now getting a sense of what I'd like to do, and that's to create change. So, impactful would be my quote for the podcast.
Thank you so much, Hamam. A wonderful quote too, as I finish this episode. So, thank you so much for coming on today.
No, of course. And again, thank you so much for inviting me, Troy. I know that this has been in the works for a very long while, but I'm very glad to be here to be able to share my thoughts. And again, I hope to be back someday. And keep it up, Troy. And goodbye to your fellow listeners.
Thank you so much, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Please support the podcast by subscribing and rating the podcast. I'd love to hear what you like and what could be better for future episodes. If you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram and I will .troy, and also on X I will _Troy. Tune in to next week's episode.